Welcome, beautiful, to the Creating Change podcast with Emma Bradford. Creating change to fall back in love with ourselves and life. Each episode, I'll be offering insightful stories, concepts, and practical takeaways to inspire your day, reconnecting to the authentic essence within. Are you ready, lovely, to embrace yourself even more and awaken to the magic life has to offer? Let's dive into today's episode. Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Change with Emma Bradford. As we dive in today about how we can take in news stories, though in a way that helps us to feel a little bit more at ease and relaxed and not so stressed and worried and fearful about everything. Something that's quite useful for what's happening in the world at the moment. There's a lot going on. And I wanted to talk about one aspect of NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming, what we call modalities and sub modalities. So we receive lots of information through our senses, what we see, what we hear, what we feel. It's what we call modalities. They're like the building blocks of our senses. And sub modalities are the finer distinctions of that. So we don't just see things, we notice color, we notice light, shadow, we notice whether something's in focus or blurry. And sounds, we don't just hear a sound, we actually notice whether something is near or far or loud or quiet. There are all these finer distinctions. Now, these submodalities, advertisers know this. They know this and they use this. And they know that when something is moving in color, up close, in focus, with sound, it creates a bigger emotional impact. So you may notice when you look at adverts on TV that actually when they're advertising a particular food from a fast food chain, it's not far away, it's not in black and white, and it's not a tiny little still picture. They've got it up close, moving, lots of sound, lots of color. They want to create that emotional impact so that you feel like you want to buy that. This is done on purpose. They know how the brain works. They know NLP. They know how to use this for marketing. Now, in NLP, we use this in the therapeutic sense, and we use it to help clients with habits and unhealthy patterns that they might be holding on to. We use it to help them with their emotional well-being. And advertisers use this to sell products. Now, this is also important to notice in terms of news. So when we're taking in news stories, there's a big difference between seeing an in color, moving picture on a massive TV screen versus reading a black and white article on a newspaper or in a magazine or on a website. There's a big difference there. There's a difference between seeing that moving in color video compared to hearing the headlines on the radio. So having that extra visual impact can create a bigger emotional impact. So if you notice that you're very emotionally impacted by what's going on in the news and you feel extra sensitive or overwhelmed, perhaps noticing how you're taking in the news and starting to reduce the amount of visual elements that you're taking in. Start listening to the headlines on the radio or just reading a few articles online. That can be a wonderful switch that can create a massive impact and that you actually feel that, okay, I know what's going on. I have a few updates and I don't feel as overwhelmed. So try that. Notice what changes as you do that. Notice what shifts. And also bear in mind that in the world that we're living in, there is so much information. and from so many different sources. Some of those sources are giving a little bit more of the truth than others. Some of those are exaggerated. Some of those have some profit agendas behind the scenes. So in order to get the full picture, obviously we won't know everything, though in order to get a little bit more of the fuller picture of what's going on, it can be useful to get up to date with the news from a variety of sources, even a few sources that we might not fully agree with. Just by hearing different perspectives and hearing the news from a variety of different sources can help us really find a little bit more of the greater truth of what's really happening. It can be useful to really pay attention to who funds that particular news channel or who backs that particular newspaper. How is it financed? Who's behind that? Are there any conflicts of interest? This is a massive topic and a massive area in the world of how we take in information and really being mindful about what we're taking in and where does that come from? Am I seeing the bigger picture here? And how can I take in that information from a variety of sources, though in a way that's manageable for me? So just paying attention to whether something can be read rather than seeing lots of videos, as one example. And also giving yourself a time limit. So perhaps 5 minutes a day or half an hour a day of taking in some news stories can be a lot more manageable than spending hours and hours scrolling and watching lots of things or sitting in front of the TV for hours. Everyone has their own personal limit on what feels good. So find what works for you. I'll leave that there. Thank you so much for listening. Do let me know how you get on with making those changes. And I wish you a wonderful day. Lots of love. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, beautiful. You're amazing. All resources and links can be found on my website, www.emmabradford.net. Link is in the show description. Do come and join my community and share your takeaways from this episode. I'd really love to hear. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Until next time, I wonder, what magic will you experience in life today?